Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, perfect. Good morning, good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Hopefully you can see me and hear me well. I'm just going to do a quick check on the Facebook as well. Let me put this lower. Good morning, guys. How was your weekend? Hopefully it was relaxing. And I'm just checking to see if I'm coming through. Perfect. Okay, yep, I can see now. Excellent. Wow, what a crazy weekend, right? And in fact, it's still going strong. It's in fact, whilst we are on online, just seeing if it will breach 10K again. I mean, it's holding steady right now. Let me see, just below, just above 10,000. So at least on Bitfinex, I'm seeing that price. Let me see, held at 1075 before we saw a bit of a move up. Where is it now? It's 10,500 on Bitfinex. But yeah, what a wild weekend, right? Even today, let me see. It did breach. In fact, it did go below 10,000. On Bitfinex, it went to 9,874. Wow. So it retested the previous area that it let me see, this was on the 2nd of July, where it retested, where it had broken 10,000. So we did see it break again. Yeah, just making sure. Yeah, wow, what a weekend. Are you guys happy to see that correction? Remember, I've been saying that a correction is due. We've been seeing on the weekly time frame, price was overbought, overbought conditions on Bitcoin in particular, and the bullish exhaustion was setting in. And so we have to look out for these some of the strategies and tactics that these whales employ. And I'm glad to see that we're getting a bit of a break, a bit of respite from that. And they did use the developments, the news that has been coming out from late last week up until now, to use it as an excuse, as a catalyst to start dumping on the market. And if you saw it initially with Trump's coin, we didn't get such a violent, reaction. We didn't see price act that volatile. But as you saw over the weekend, where the main moves, some of the biggest moves occurred during the weekend, whales love to trap retail investors and make their main moves there. And sure enough, they dumped down. They unleashed the bears out there. So yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing, thank goodness. I mean, I'm personally happy to see this correction. It came right on time, and I knew it was going to be like either some news event or some sort of influencer. When you pray, like whenever Donald Trump tweets something, usually it's some crazy, horrible stuff. But one of those tweets, especially if you're a trader, you do want it to go your way. And hoping that if you're trading commodities, for example, if it's your lucky day and you have a particular bias and it could, there's confirmation there, and Donald Trump happens to be speaking or tweeting, it could easily go your way. That you know, he's a good luck charm for some people, right? But yeah, we certainly, as I mentioned on Friday, the fact that he has finally spoken out on his position on cryptos, on Bitcoin, and what his thoughts are. That is, if it's his real thoughts, or we don't know what his advisors are telling him, if they're giving him an objective view, or they're just telling him what to say. So the fact that it has been an important milestone, actually, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Like, if you wanted to affect price in such a way, like just at the point where you see bullish exhaustion happening and you want to sell off, what a time. I'm telling you, it feels like this whole thing is coordinated, right? And it's funny that where we are right now, literally just seven days ago, we were talking about potentially seeing prices being tested again at 13,800, even if bullish momentum continued and breached 14,000, maybe even 16, 17,000. But wow, leading up to this, we've been seeing and waiting for a particular event to go down, some sort of catalyst that the whales could use. And I told you, didn't I say, like, don't ever underestimate the bears. I know this looks good right now. Everyone's happy, great to see the bullish sentiments and whatnot, but never ever discount the bears' ability to frighten some investors, especially if they came new retail investors coming in at the top, if they've been buying Bitcoin at 11, 12, 13,000 in particular. This is a time where that they're going to learn some quick lessons. Never underestimate the bears. And one thing we can be always sure of, I know, like, FOMO is a very dangerous provocateur. It can make you act emotional and start jumping in at the point where you feel like this train's gonna leave the station without me, sort of thing. But there's always opportunities, as we keep saying, to get in, and it's really at the pullbacks, and there always will be corrections. There will always be pullbacks and retracements, especially with Bitcoin's history of being extremely volatile, and all these bullish runs and rallies that we've been seeing. At some point, a price has to be paid for that. And so I, for one, am so happy we finally get a relief and be able to accumulate some more cryptos. And as they say, when the market is fearful, if you look at the fear and greed index, it switched back to fear. Even at one point, I saw extreme fear. I love the fact that, while some people are, panicking, or even, wondering if they should sell parts of their holdings or positions out, depending on what price points they accumulated. Because if you came in, accumulating at 6,000, 7,000, where we still are, you could, you still made profit. If that's part of your strategy, to have a percentage liquidated and then stack up on, when these pullbacks occur again, then fantastic. If you're a long-term hodler, the true hodlers tend to look for opportunities to buy down at lower prices. And so they tend to love these, corrections, and they just stack up. They accumulate, guys, and don't look at it again. They buy. Their only strategy as a true hodler, long-term investor, you just want to be looking at opportunities to get in at lower prices, because there will be corrections at some point. So with this, it's a godsend for the hodlers, really. And so the lower the price goes, what you find is the buyers that are coming back in, they've never gone anywhere, by the way. They're just waiting for the right time to come in and stack up. they've been able to get in, swoop in, and so far during this bullish run that we've been seeing, it's been the buyers consistently that have been absorbing the pullbacks. And, you know, the whales have also been having fun with this, you know, trapping sellers with these short squeezes. So the momentum was definitely with the bulls, and it helped that the whales were instigating these moves as well. So each time that we saw overbought conditions, some sellers couldn't help themselves. They looked for opportunities to jump in whenever it looked like it was going to pull back. But so far, the bulls had maintained control, momentum. Bullish sentiment was strong, all-time, at yearly highs. You know, the prices that we saw it reach at one point almost 14,000, depending on whatever exchange you're looking at. Some of them add premiums to that. But 13,800 was the goal again for the bulls to try and go back, at least go back beyond, try and get back up to 12,000 and maintain it there. But clearly, I mean, you know, there was some exhaustion setting in, profit taken by some traders as well. And we had, I mean, look at the way over the past few weeks and months, the way it's been natural. By the way, coming out of a prolonged bear market, you are to expect this kind of positive, you know, sharp rallies that we've been seeing, this type of volatility return and that bullish sentiment return. This is absolutely natural. It's healthy. But the way it ran up as well, it continued to be pushed up again and again. And then you had Bitfinex go down, Coinbase at one point go down for maintenance and upgrades. And that was an excuse to use that opportunity to manipulate Bitcoin's price. And we saw it go up to 13,800, 14,000 on some exchanges, and within 24 hours dipped down to 10,000, just above 10,000 something. So within 24 hours to see that level of volatility, and at one point again we saw Bitcoin lose $2,000. So you know, these type of movements in the market, fluctuations, you know, this is normal. This is you know, to be expected in our market. And so this weekend in particular, though, we did have fair warnings, guys. We've been coming up to it, and the whales were just biding their time. It could have, I mean, if you look at the overbought conditions for a while, go look at the weekly and daily time frame. We've been saying, okay, you know, there seems to be a bit more bullish momentum here, but you know, a correction is due. I don't see how this could be sustained to try and break of, you know, 14K again, go up to 16, 17. It just, the odds of that happening, you know, was reducing because of the selling pressure. It was getting to a point where it's going to take some type of catalyst, and they wait for the perfect moment, guys. This is all planned. And coordinated to some extent by waiting for these events to occur and use it as an excuse to put fear back in the market, to induce you know, retail investors to act in a certain way, is, you know, trademark. It's typical of them. And so just, you know, I'm not sure if they ever knew Donald Trump would be coming out with that comment, but with what was very clear is the hearings that are due to look at Facebook's scrutinize Libra, Facebook's digital coin offering, and not digital coin offering, their own cryptocurrencies. I'm thinking of Blockstack here. So yeah, it's going to be wild. There's going to be great entertainment, I tell you that. If you're a crypto holder, if you're a crypto enthusiast, and so the hearings will be starting from tomorrow. and after tomorrow over 2 days. But also that, apparently the Democrats have put a draft proposal called Keep Big Tech Out of Finance Act. Now, that sort of spooked the market as well. It's a draft apparently it's a draft legislation that's written to try and limit the power of these major tech companies. And yes, this is sort of having a go at Facebook, Libra's proposal, but also they're scared of the precedents it will set, because even if Facebook is not successful with this, there's going to be other tech companies, Google, Apple, Microsoft, that perhaps may want to do this themselves. And so this is why, they do not want to have competition to the US dollar, like they are absolutely scared in regards to the systemic risks it would pose for the US government, and the incredible power and reach and the scale that these private companies, even if they're publicly listed, these giant tech corporations that have access to insane amount of data and transactions, then you put money into the equation, finances into the equation, you're going to have a lot of banks being upset, government being upset, real competition, and they don't want that. They absolutely don't want that. But also, they do have some grounds for concern, because it's not like Facebook has had a stellar record of ensuring that they protect people's privacy, and with the data mining that had been going on, data exploitation and whatnot, and also concerns with money laundering. Money laundering. Just wash your dollar bills and hang them up with pegs, right, on the washing line. They're really scared, guys. You can see the fear. You could really see the threat being posed to these, not just the American government, mind you, just all these global governments right now. They're in discussions on how to come up with standardized regulation, globalized regulation that will help to monitor and crack down on these digital avenues that criminals can use. I mean, that's the narrative that they're putting out, but they need to clean up their own backyard first and foremost, because the US dollar and these other fiat, the pound, the euro, still, but by far the US dollar is still the preferred vehicle for conducting these illicit activities and these illegal criminal acts. So it's just really disappointing that the Democrats of all people, and of course it's an election season. I know it's the voting happens next year, but they're already kickstarting it. The campaign is well underway. So it's just the same, and not to say every Democrat is against. I'm not saying they're against crypto, whatnot. They, I know, is it Andrew Yang? I know one of the Democrat, what do you call it? One of the candidates had been a major fan of cryptos from day one. So, it'd be interesting that now that Trump has made his position public on cryptos and Bitcoin, the idea of also having these companies, if they're looking to create, in his words, a bank, start a bank or be a bank, to have a banking charter and to be able to follow the rules just as normal banks do, national or international. But he clearly does not appreciate or understand, the type of the potential, the enormous, benefits that this could have for America's economy and America's standing in the world, and many aspects in terms of helping ordinary people and help to level the playing field, help to reduce the inequalities, the disparities that we see, especially where wealth is concerned as well. The richer keeps getting richer, the poorer keeps getting poorer. So something something has to give. And so, this major, major moves that we've been seeing by these companies like Facebook now proposing to have their version, their crypto come out and be able to use their own base, their own, huge reach that they have, especially with Facebook's ability to, have all these algorithms set to monitor and follow, and you add money to the mix, is going to be super potent, and it can get toxic, it can be dangerous, but really what they're scared of is the dependence, the reliance that people have currently on fiat is going to be instigated. Facebook Libra will be the catalyst that will set it off. So if they're going to utilize that in their everyday lives, and they get used to dealing with cryptos, with digital assets, and then you have other things coming on board, like all the infrastructure that helps to onboard people from all walks of life, all types of stakeholders. Then it normalizes this industry, and it's going to cause havoc for governments, and especially since they do not have control, they don't have they don't have the ability to shut it down. Of course, they have other means of putting their influence and trying to have restrictions and limitations on, for example, crypto exchanges. If they have, they do have bank accounts and other financial means, and for them to have a crackdown on them, and their ability to have bank accounts and whatnot. And that's going to be problematic if they decide, okay, we're going to shut down access to that. And also if they have laws that they pass to ban ordinary people from purchasing cryptos with their bank accounts, with their credit or debit cards. I know some private companies have got policies regarding cryptos. You're unable to buy them with your credit cards, for example, but with some they allow debit cards, and others they don't allow anything at all. But there's this discussion. Okay, if that's his position, is Donald Trump going to have another? Since he's been a major fan of executive orders, is he going to pass an executive order banning cryptos and the use of cryptos, the purchasing, the transferring, the keeping, spending, is there going to be a blanket ban? Is there going to be a partial ban? How do they, have these laws written to the problem is not really the writing of these laws. I think the problem is in the enforcing of these laws, and so that's why they've been struggling to have an understanding, a true grasp of this, and how they'd be able to enforce this in a way that would act as a true deterrent. So if they start jailing people, if they start fining people, putting penalties and whatnot, then that's going to be an issue, and it will actually it will probably set Bitcoin's price even higher. It's going to be bullish for Bitcoin because there's going to be resistance, there's going to be protests, and you name it. They're not gonna be American investors are not going to be given up without a fight. And so especially the high profile people, I like how Winklevoss brothers have been trying to drop some wisdom, some knowledge on Trump and other people, and other was it Brian Armstrong as well, and also what's his name, Xiangpeng, the CEO of Binance as well, and also Justin Sun as well. He said he's going to have a lunch with Warren Buffett. He had won a competition or something to have lunch with him. He spent a lot of millions of dollars to get that lunch. I'm not sure if it's for charity or he donated it for something else. But anyway, he's going to have lunch with Warren Buffett, and he invited Donald Trump to come along with him. And after that lunch, after he educates both Warren Buffett, who is as we know from his history of taking a position against Bitcoin and cryptos, to have both of them be fully educated and come up to speed, and that by the time he finishes the lunch with them, that he's going to be the most knowledgeable person on cryptos ever. And really putting up the invitation out there with no ridicule, no mocking, and truly to open his eyes to the possibilities with this technology. So this is why I question the advisors here. I don't think he has a clue about the technology and what it entails and whatnot, and I don't personally think he cares. But I do feel like if it's gonna, I know he'd have all his banking buddies up in his ear, trying to influence his decisions on this. So they stand to benefit, obviously, if there's bans on cryptos and blockchain and all types of limitation. And I think other banks, the most fearful, not just the government, but banks are fearing what Facebook can do and other tech companies can do. It's like, they feel like they're overstepping their mark, whilst they're happy with the innovations and the technology advancements that we see. But don't be stepping on my territory. Don't be coming expanded to my territory. They're very, very defensive at the moment. And so they feel like with Facebook, it is essentially, in a way, Facebook would be acted. I mean, it would be challenging the not sovereignty, the scale, the power that the US dollar has. And remember, it's still being used as reserve currency for oil, but that's not going to, I doubt that that's going to last for long. And there's other countries already that are looking to find either use a basket of currencies or to use other means to have to pay for oil, to pay for commodities and whatnot. And we've seen in terms of by the way, with Iran, Iran mentioned that they're going to have a gold-backed cryptocurrency. So that for them will be a way to circumvent the sanctions placed on them by the US. This is not going to be going anywhere. I think it'll only get worse, actually. And these major tech companies, all the members involved, the companies signed up with the Libra Association, they're also going to be backing this. I think this will be interesting to watch. I think it'll be like a day, almost like a David versus Goliath. Although I wouldn't call cryptos. Maybe that's not a good comparison, but I mean, money-wise, Bitcoin is still in its infancy. It's worth in the millions, in the billions of dollars. At some point, it'll be the total market cap. Both Bitcoin and the entire space will be worth in the trillions. I mean, especially if Bitcoin maintains its dominant, the dominance, the percentage of dominance that we're been seeing was now still 65 despite the dump in the market. And altcoins have been getting a battering. I am feeling for people, because some of them are double-digit losses, and so you know. But here's the thing, where I am extremely happy and extremely glad that we have the correction, but this is an opportunity to get clarity, especially on the regulatory aspect, all these legislations and rules that are being proposed on the floor. We need to have that discussion anyway. We need to get that resolved as soon as possible anyway. And it's strange that the markets, especially the indices, being at new highs. The Dow Jones, as I mentioned before, had gone up to 27,000, and S&P 500 has been setting a new record as well. Oil last week was pumping; it broke an important level, and gold was at 6-year high. It was crazy, right? So that to me looks bearish. Whenever you get these new highs occurring, I think that's the time to gear up for corrections. And I do expect some investors to be liquidating their positions and selling. Trump and the Republicans, imagine being in that position. You want to hold on to these historic highs and, makes great newspaper reading, headlines. We have the best economy in the world. We have the best performances ever. And all the credit he's been taken and not given to the previous administration that has been creating the foundation, turned it around from a 2008 deep recession all the way, I think it was losing 800,000 jobs a month at one point, to where it was in 2016, which is so much better, and unemployment kept dropping down year by year. And so 2016, some of these policies have been business friendly, tax cuts for the wealthy, which is such a Republican thing to do. So, business have been responding to that, markets have been responding to that. I do feel like where we're getting at in the traditional space, all-time highs is a sign, guys. There's going to be bullish exhaustion there, and we're going to see the dollar break down. So I'm long-term bearish on that, and that's going to have an impact on the views, not just on investors, but ordinary people looking for alternatives. And in this case, the spotlight, the scrutiny will be even much more on cryptos when we get the traditional markets collapsing and correcting. And so that's what I think is going to happen. But it's just amazing that with Libra's situation, it is bullish for the space long term. I remember it's nothing like Bitcoin at all. And, the concerns that these US lawmakers have in regards to Facebook, it's not really to do with the challenging how it's going to dominate the crypto space, where it's completely different. It's actually the systemic risk that the US dollar, the US Treasury, their monetary systems, their monetary policies will be threatened because of the potential consequences of allowing companies as massive as Facebook to have their own digital currency, which is the future. Digital currencies, digital assets, we're going to see tokenization of different assets. There's no way to stop it. It's inevitable. It's already happening as we speak. So it really, the dollar is being challenged, and they do not like that 100%. And so they're going to, even if it means stifling innovation, I think trying to find this delicate balance is going to be extremely difficult. And so they'd rather be on the, at least some parts of, the house, and they'd rather be on the safe side and protect investors, but really they're also protecting their backs. protecting themselves from the innovations that we're seeing, that they could literally be sidelined, that, the population could end up adopting this, and it would become the norm, and the US would decline, the dollar will continue declining. I mean, right now, yes, it's bullish, but I think there's some factors at play here, and in a way it's been artificially pushed up and kept where it is, but I think it's bearish long term, and that will end up having an impact on what people's the shift in momentum and sentiment will definitely gather pace, especially where people, new investors coming into crypto space is concerned. Some of them need a catalyst or something to push them to look to other alternatives. So I think that's what's going to happen, and because it's getting easier and easier to be able, you have a lot of platforms out there, exchanges, and you have increase in competition. So this is an opportunity right now for these lawmakers to do the right thing and have set clarity, yes, and have something defined in law, so companies and investors alike are not inadvertently, doing anything illegal or whatever, but having that clarity is certainly going to help and know where everyone stands. But if they act in this, really bearish way and prohibitively, in a draconian, taking draconian actions, this is archaic, guys, and they're only trying to stop what's inevitable anyway, and having there's digital revolution going on everywhere in different industries, so it's only a matter of time. So they've got to get with the program, because the opportunity is only going to go elsewhere. It's only going to go abroad. And so, where we are right now. Anyway, going back to what we're saying about Bitcoin, the dominance that Bitcoin is demonstrating, even through a period of correction, is the part that interests me. And I know people have been, wondering and worried about the state of altcoins and whether, they're going to last. Is it just going to be a few that happen after all is said and done, that stay alive, and the major top cap companies and whatnot. And we're just at a point now where it is very likely that if things don't, if we do get these crackdowns, and we have these negative, a lot of these negative voices at higher positions, dictating and narrating the way Bitcoin and cryptos and other advancements are perceived, then there is a danger that they could end up shooting themselves in the foot and making it a more miserable time for people, crypto enthusiasts, and they're only going to push people to drive them to do alternative things. They're not really going to dampen spirits, or they're not going to stop people in a way that I don't think it's going. In fact, it's going to have the opposite effect. I think people will be more creative. I think they'll look for alternative ways. I'm not suggesting or recommending anything, but they're certainly going to, that you have some people, for example, using VPNs and hiding their IP addresses to circumvent certain website from tracking them and establishing their geographic location. Definitely, I don't recommend doing that, but everyone, makes their own decisions and stuff like that. And so if they, if they have opportunities to open, to go abroad and open accounts in crypto-friendly jurisdictions and whatnot, they're only going to drive people to do things like that. in my opinion, and find and then have companies like Binance that do come into the US market and comply with the local laws and whatnot. That way they'd be able to stack up on cryptos and still be able to have exposure to the volatility in the markets. But overall, it doesn't look good if they're using Facebook as an excuse, the Libra project as an excuse to then crack down on the entire market, on Bitcoin and cryptos, to try and justify it with a narrative that would make ordinary not even investors, but those that don't even know about crypto are not even invested yet, or even worse, ones that already have a negative view of the space, perhaps if they got burnt during the bear market or some other reason, just complete ignorance or not even known the true impact of this technology, then that's going to spell bad news for the states, for cryptos, for the community in that jurisdiction. That's going to be it's just going to make life a lot more difficult for them. And so but it's not going to stop us. It's certainly not going to stop American investors looking for different ways to capitalize in this space. I just think that they're really shooting themselves in the foot. But these hearings that we're going to anyway watch and find out how they break down digital currencies, how they define cryptos, and how they spell out the implications, the good and the bad, because they need to make it as clear as possible. So if there's confusion, that'll only make lawmakers be more defensive, in my opinion. So they need to be as clear, as concise, as break it down like a 5-year-old. Explain it to me as if I was a 5-year-old, sort of language. I hope they just use plain language, not have too many jargon. But it's going to be interesting because Facebook will be in this position. They're not only fighting to have Libra given a chance, a light of day, but also they're going to have to explain what this means in the proper context, of the technology, and what this means, the impact this will have on the US dollar, on sovereign currencies out there, the implications that will have. So, and in terms of money laundering and privacy issues, that's major areas that they need to convince, and they have to convince them, strongly, make it very clear to them that they're going to have things in place, provisions in place, so they have mechanisms to not only monitor that but enforce that, because they already have an issue, trust in Facebook, with enforcing these new rules that they said that they were going to implement in the light of the Cambridge Analytica scandal that we saw, and the breaches, data breaches that we saw and whatnot, and also with the political interference that we saw, and so there's a lot of pressure on Facebook tomorrow. We'll see over the next few days how they're going to do that, and how they present this. Our market, I mean, I do feel that whatever the case is anyway, Wales will use this as an excuse to plan out, to execute their strategy, and take Bitcoin to whatever price they want to see it go. So I'm hoping that they will continue to use this as an excuse to dump down on the market and correct, even as far as 8,000, even 6,000 is not out of the question. But the fact that the Bitcoin's price has been tested below 9,000, below 10,000 several times now, I think the bears are getting ready to make a killing. And if this goes well, we will see the opportunities have come back again. So even I know the possibility of 3K looks so unlikely, but again, depending on how these hearings plan out and other factors at play, the UK regulator is also cracking down on crypto, which I'm not happy to hear. It's a new development that's happening. And again, the same reasons that the US is quoting in regards to money laundering and investor protection and illicit activities and whatnot. They're saying that over and over again, but they need to clean up what's happening, on their own doorsteps with fiat being the preferred option. What about money laundering with that? There's going to be like the European Central Bank policymaker is due to deliver some sort of speech or report, and there's going to be a meeting. This is in the meeting of the G7 finance ministers, and cryptos will be in that discussion. So, right now, and also the Libra. And how it's been seen by other governments, and they're already taking matters into their own hands. I believe the Japanese are already setting up a group to look into Libra's impact on their own monetary policy, and how are they gonna change the regulations on their side to keep up with major tech companies like Libra, like Facebook, because I'm sure whether it's domestic companies, Japanese-based companies, or global companies, multinational corporations, if they then start printing their own, creating their own cryptos, and in the scale that Facebook Libra has. And they mention that Facebook mentions that it doesn't have influence, or it doesn't have the workings. It's going to be run and governed by Libra Association, the members. They're based in Switzerland, by the way. So they're already set up. They've gone in and made sure they set up in a crypto-friendly jurisdiction. But this is going to be a major political issue now. I wouldn't be surprised when 2020 rolls around, and one of the debate questions will be their positions on cryptos. And again, it really depends on where people's mind is at the time as well. So if the economy at the time shows signs of recession setting in, if there's like job losses increasing, and people are getting laid off and whatnot, there's some company has crashed and whatnot, something. It depends where we are at the time when these the sentiment, overall voter sentiment next year, and if at that point, Bitcoin's, remember the Bitcoin halving is due to come in May 2020. So if they're seeing several factors at play here, and the economy is correcting, people are selling off their equities, and their positions are being liquidated and whatnot, there's going to be a major issue, a major headache for the current administration, and it's not going to look good, electoral for their electoral chances that they're going to. I mean, already the Republicans have. There was an internal polling done apparently that compared to the current Democratic candidates, the Democrats are currently beating Trump, and so they're really concerned. And also they have inside information with the true state of the economy, and with the stock markets in particular, and they're probably afraid and ensuring that they're going to at least keep the economy stable and, continuing to maintain those highs all the way up to next November, where you guys get to vote next year. And that's I think that'll be the play here. They're going to try and keep the dollar as bullish for as long as possible. But if on their watch voters start seeing a beginning of recession, and then they also see Bitcoin price recover at some point this year, and then I'm saying worst case scenario, if we correct down to 6K, even 3K, there's still time for it to recover substantially enough to then even see a new time highs being created at some point next year with the Bitcoin halving. If it doesn't happen later this year, definitely in my opinion, I'm not saying that I better take away definitely, because someone might just, oh, you said definitely 100%. So in my opinion, I think with the Bitcoin halving, some of the fundamentals will kick in even up to as late as the halving period, which is in May 2020. I still think that we're going to see a bullish Bitcoin and bullish crypto, and the bull market will be in full effect, in my opinion. And so even then, it's going to show like a clear difference, and having these alternatives already. Some of the projects will be well established by then, and some of them will even follow the example of blockchain of Blockstack's example of going down via the regulated security regulated offerings that we've seen with theirs being accepted by the SEC, and it's going to be crazy next year, in my opinion. I think it'll be bullish, but from what I'm seeing anyway, this correction where we're going through, whether it's with these factors causing concerns in regards to big tech printing their own digital coins, and the majority of these companies that already have issues dealing with complying with regulations, and the power that they'll have, the influence that they have already, and how that's going to then be even 10 times worse to deal with when they go and digitalize their own platforms. And this is a real concern that Powell's comments didn't help as well. Certainly they want Facebook's project to be halted until it gives clarity on these issues regarding money laundering, privacy, and whatnot, and the systemic risk as well. So the industry is getting ready for these type of regulatory crackdowns anyway. It has been for a number of years now, but it's the momentum and the pressure is building, and I think it'll only create more more hostility, and it's completely preventable, in my opinion, if they take a collaborative approach. Like some other jurisdictions are doing. It's a win-win, and they're proving that. But if they're coming up, already with a hostile position against companies, big tech firms, and really, it's not in my opinion, ain't just to protect the small person, but it really is about protecting themselves and their position and the dollar supremacy. That really is the end all and the be all. And so this will be a case of them trying to shape the narrative to the American people, to investors abroad, of what they think, their vision of where the country is going to go, and trying to strike this balance. And remember, they're not going to be their true selves. This is an election season, so I feel like they're going to be playing up to the voters and trying to be seen to be prudent and be, not an enemy of innovation and all these other major techs. I just got a text. Speaking of which, all these other companies that come through, and their concern is the fact that there's platforms, there's a technology that's out there now that they can simply bypass these major banking I like to say cartels, right? Banking cartels and traditional financial institutions, and if retail onboards with these major tech companies and have them relying at their dependence on having these digital coins instead of, they're really scared of the fact that it's not just the decline of the dollar. And I think they're having already some information telling them that the worth of the dollar is already declining anyway. It's not backed by anything. You have other countries and jurisdictions looking for alternative platforms and means, new protocols being written from scratch, for them to be able to create new financial systems that, that's on their terms, or at least away from the dependence on the US dollar. And so, the impact that Russia and China is having as well on other places, the shift that's going on, the power play, Europe, the US is attacking Europe as well on that aspect, not just with Iran, but also on the trade deals, and the UK, the coming out of Brexit, potential trade deals that could be set up and whatnot. And there's a tug of war going on right now, and the US so-called global supremacy is being questioned. It's been challenged by not just Iran, but even their own long-standing friends and allies are challenging them. And you have technology at the heart of this, really pushing the old way of thinking, and the pushing away, moving away from the old way of thinking, and forcing these major companies and elites and governments to catch up and realize that they're already behind, in my opinion. So it's going to be great to see the hearings tomorrow and after tomorrow, and find out how this impacts people's position, if that will change. I doubt it will, but I think it will be a major opportunity to hopefully make the case for our industry. I really hope that they do it in the right way, because again, the spotlight being on them, it's an opportunity for new investors, new ordinary people to take either a first look, or if it's someone that already had previous exposure to cryptos, they'll take another look at this and see what's happening at the moment. But I think it's bullish overall for our space. It doesn't matter what type of rules and laws that they manage to pass. If it's negative, if it's against innovation and having these American companies deal with more restrictions and whatnot, it's not great for American investors, I know. But what the message it does send, though, is that clearly this is for them to be feeling threatened, and the language that they're using is confirmation of that the way things are, is being questioned, and it's no longer tenable in some cases. It's, you know, there's a real, truly working, there's a real alternatives out there, and the real world use cases behind it. You know, when, especially when Trump says this, Bitcoin isn't money, that it's, you know, made out of thin air and it has no value and it's super volatile. He's right about the volatility, but everything else tells me and tells everyone else that he doesn't have the true understanding of the technology and the you know, what's underpinning it, what, and the movement, the sentiment, the trends that are clearly indicating that there's a major evolution and shift happening, and we'll never go back to the way things are, to the way things were and they currently are. And even, funnily enough, Binance CEO Zhang had made fun of Trump, because apparently there's a Trump coin out there, and it had pumped as a result of that news. So anyway, so you know, it's going to be bullish, I reckon. I don't think there's anything that could be done. No country, no regulatory body, includes the SEC. I don't think there can be any type of rules or provisions or any, it doesn't matter what they say and do. At the end of the day, as long as we have different alternative platforms, especially if they're decentralized, and you have privacy orientated coins as well, and you have other crypto friendly jurisdictions being able to open up their doors and help companies have a space environment, a safer space and environment to incubate their ideas and platforms and whatnot. There's no way that they can shut this down or limit it in any way. And at the end of the day, they're only hurting their own citizens, their own you know, companies. You know, they're missing out on you know, lost tax revenue and the potential to take leadership, be one of the pioneering countries to be able to have these new rules set up where they can, in collaboration and cooperation with the community, come up with you know, common sense rules that, you know, would have emphasis placed and using the strengths and assets of both parties, of all parties, to come together to have a progressive approach at this technology, because it ain't going anywhere. It's only going to continue to proliferate. So, you know, before the governments and banking cartels got involved, this was already working out fine. So, you know, they can either, you know, be on the right side of history, or just make things, you know, make other people's lives just more worse. And so there's ways to be able to crack down on illicit activities and whatnot without having to stifle innovation, and they know this. And so really it's making the case not just for our space, but what the advantages, the benefits would be, what's in it for them as well. So I think that, you know, especially if you look at the tax revenue aspect of it, and the job creation, and revitalizing depressed areas in certain, you know, parts of the country, and really, you know, helping the industry, helping to redefine that area as well, and give hope to people, you know, in ways that, you know, hasn't been possible before, and upskilling people, making it, you know, having educational centers, because a lot of this will be driven by getting people to understand the true value of this space and what it means for them and their community and their family, how it could be utilized. And so how this is explained, how this is narrated and interpreted is going to be everything. And I think with the American, and I know that Facebook knows this already, and they're going to hopefully create a very strong persuasive narrative that will explain not only the economic advantages, but the political, the social, you know, the where we are right now, America cannot afford to turn its back on new technologies, and it cannot afford to stifle innovation. Indeed, that's part of the reason why it's been so successful. Having these new companies, an environment where you can have companies coming out of Silicon Valley and creating all types of life-changing technologies out there, and access to information and opportunities like we've never had before ever in human history. So the last 10 years, the last 20 years that we've seen has been dramatic, but nothing compared to what we're about to witness over the next few years. The amount of advancements that we're going to see will be, the time will be compressed. The achievements will be compressed. It'll happen in a short time because of the existing foundation that has already been laid and the progress built on that. So it's only going to continue to get better. But if they don't get ahead of this, then they're going to be shooting themselves and, more importantly, the people in the foot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the media, because that's another aspect with the mainstream media, and the whales can use this to manipulate retail and find ways that they can perhaps prolong the market cycles that we've seen them do before. So if this is a true opportunity, from what I'm seeing at least, if this is not just a short-term correction, there's a possibility that we can see previous lows being tested, and that would be amazing to see, and for us to accumulate some more. The regulatory rules and standardization that's going on across these jurisdictions is going to be becoming more and more profound. It's going to be, we're going to start seeing it being communicated everywhere over the next few months, if not at least within the next 12 months. Is certainly going to be made. We're going to see, like, literally, if you go on crypto exchanges and other platforms, you may start, again, depending on your jurisdictions, you may start seeing them, a pop-up message saying, okay, you now have to submit this information, this document, where previously when you first signed up, they didn't have to do that. Or in the case of US residents, with some exchanges, they've had to stop dealing with them and say, I'm sorry, we're going to have to close access to you. We're going to give you some time, and this is the process, and be able to comply, in order to comply with the US regulations. So we saw what happened with Binance and Bittrex and other exchanges, want to play it safe. At least with Binance, they've come up with the US version to comply as well. But we're going to see more and more of this until we have clear rules and laws set in America. And this is part of the discussion that's going on right now in Washington, in order to move to the next stage. But yeah, I mean, even with the UK government, the economic crime plan is planning to, they're reforming that, and they're going to include provisions on cryptos as well. And so, and they're also working with the major banks in the UK, Barclays, Lloyds, HSBC, and so on, nationwide, you name it, RBS, all of them. The similar thing will be going on in America as well. So, there's no doubt that regulations is unavoidable. Like, this is going to be implemented no matter what happens. But the fact that they're now targeting major, I'm talking Democrats here, this is just a draft proposal, allegedly, that's going to fine Facebook. A company like Facebook, for example, would be fined $1 million a day if they breach these rules. And so I'm really asking myself, is this really are they just these punitive moves that they're making or suggesting? Is it really like a ploy? It's just something to be able to a way to extract, exploit, and be able to use this to send a message and also find ways to be able to make money from this. What's their true agenda behind this? Because we know that they feel threatened by companies like Facebook with their vast scale and access to information, and the potential damage they can do to the current order. But in a way that kind of says to me that they having this sort of trying to prohibit companies from becoming too big or too powerful. It really is, in a way, it's a bit anti-capitalistic, isn't it? It's just I'm very sensitive to the way they are almost attacking blockchain and crypto companies or existing major tech companies that want to have their own digital assets without getting the opportunity to see what this means overall for the space and how this can help the American economy. So if they understand the difference between what Facebook Libra is looking to do and other, the differences between that and Bitcoin, a decentralized coin, for example, and the impact that has, then, I hope they put that into proper context and not lumping, not trying to get this idea that somehow Libra coin is going to be just, it's the same as other cryptos, and that the damage that this will have, the precedents it will set for other, crypto coins to be just as powerful and have all citizens dropping the dollar and going into, relying on cryptos only. I think that's the biggest fear that they have, and that, they're looking to be seen as being on the right side of, protecting the investor, essentially. They also have political gains, political points to score with this as well. But I'm not going to hide it. I mean, I'm really disappointed with the Democrats even suggesting, having these sort of proposals to, because it's not really, I understand their position on Facebook regarding data privacy. I agree that they have to face more regulations regarding, people's privacy and the way they collect data, the algorithms and stuff that they have to monitor and track people. I'm not a fan of that at all as well. But it's just the fact that you have government interference where, digital assets are concerned, that doesn't instill any type of confidence in me whatsoever. And I can clearly see, and hopefully some people as well, that the fact that they have these positions on, big tech, they have these positions on digital assets, our, blockchain space, crypto space, that tells me they feel threatened and that it's clearly working. And so what do? We just continue stacking up, guys. We don't change any aspect, perhaps adapt our strategy in a few ways, but we stick with what we know to be true. And we don't need the, Congress or Senate or any party or any regulatory authority to tell us what we already know in regards to the space. I mean, we're doing it legitimately and legally, and looking for ways to take opportunity of the new technology and the ever-changing, the evolution of these transformational projects and platforms and systems and networks and things that we're seeing out there that clearly is, bringing benefits to us. And any time that you have powers that be getting uncomfortable, getting scared, and you can tell when they start, imposing these rules and these scare stories come out more, and you have all that, type of FUD and stuff like that coming. We've heard this during the bear market, we heard this during the bull market. We know what's in front of us. So it's just having this, this balance where you have government, understand that they want to ensure that they try and get a handle on the illicit activities and stuff that criminals do. By all means, yes, that's fine. But they're also encroaching on people's ability and people's, whenever we get these opportunities to for the ordinary person to capitalize on opportunities that normally, like, you have companies and wealthy people that sometimes with some of these fundraisers you have to be accredited, and it's excluding ordinary investors from participating in these moves, in these IPOs, for example. I like the fact that with these mini IPOs coming out, with Blockstack's example, some crypto companies are not going to go for it, but that's fine. I like the precedence that is set. It's the fact that the signal it gives is that ordinary people can invest in up and coming technologies and projects with strong fundamentals, and be able to be having a piece of the cake and having opportunities to create generational wealth, and helping to go in terms of social mobility, having more people come up to become middle class and even upper class as well, and establishing new ways, new avenues for people to do better, be better, and get out of the vicious cycle that they may that may be in a poverty trap, a poverty cycle within their previous generations, and it's not enough to be saddled in debt as getting out student loans. Even you have Pell grants and all types of help that you may be able to get, scholarships, sponsorships and whatnot. I love some of the ideas that the Democrats do have good ideas. One of them, I heard that they were going to scrap student loans, and if they do that, that's going to be extremely beneficial to young people. But also there will be ripple effects with the economy as well. If you're not heavily saddled with student loans, you can use that money to invest in your first home, invest in property, in other things, other asset classes and whatnot, and that's going to help a lot of people, a lot of young people get ahead. And so much stuff is expensive out there, so much is against them already, and so they don't need millennials in particular are paying close attention to this. And if you have if the US decides to be against cryptos and blockchain, really they're shooting themselves in the foot with the younger generation who are going to be the ones driving the economy. The tax revenues will come from them, and it's also going to support the older people, the pensioners as well. So you want to make the environment conducive to bring out the best in them, the potential in them. So having as many opportunities and technologies and opportunities is going to be the key, and so I'm sure that they're going to be having these discussions, and you have to look at who's driving this and for what purpose, what do they stand to gain. We're going to see what happens, but crazy, guys. It's going to be either way, no matter what goes down with Libra's with the Facebook hearings in Washington, crypto blockchain is still going to be bullish. It's still going to be on its way up. All the developments that have already been established, and all the new the money inflows coming into the space, it's not changing anything whatsoever. The people that will be capitalizing from these news, from these hearings and whatnot, for sure will be the whales that have been looking to use this opportunity to make a killing on the markets. But fundamentally, this doesn't change anything until the rules are actually set. Like if they start introducing these laws whereby it's more difficult for crypto and blockchain companies to be established in America, then yes, it will have a bearing, or a partial bearing on the price and the value of these companies. But I still think overall, because of its global nature and the fact that there's other jurisdictions, crypto-friendly jurisdictions where these companies can transfer to and set up there, I still feel like they're not going to change the balance. They're not going to change their numbers. It's still in our favor, and the rate of adoption essentially is going to continue to rise. Either way, it's just especially if we have major disturbances and changes in where the economy is concerned. You have these tensions growing in the Middle East, with Iran and America. You have the situation with Russia, Europe, and America. You have the Venezuelan and the Cuban issue, and also you have, these other countries, major power plays like China as well, taking what's happened over the last few months and deciding, we're going to have to reduce our reliance on the US and the West, and work with our other partners and create other alliances, so they reduce they reduce the exposure that they have as well. Because if the Western governments and economies suffer, they're going to be taken advantage of that, but they want to be prepared. That's the key thing about this. So everyone's repositioning themselves and adapting, and in the middle of all this craziness, crypto blockchain will continue to rise and continue to develop and get better over time. But where we are right now in terms of these price corrections, it's healthy, it's necessary, in my opinion. I hope to see lower lows. I hope to see more opportunities to be able to accumulate. These pullbacks is where we make our money. So this is a great time to dollar cost average and stack up. And so any of these so-called bad news and developments that's coming out, and whales help to drive the price down, great. We're going to be stacking up. And then when we have that long, the bullish momentum return and continue to go up and make new all-time highs, and continue to do higher highs, and we're going to be so glad that we took the opportunities when we had. It's so easy to go, to be in the future and then look back and wish that you had used the opportunities when you did. It's so easy to be regretful, so easy to look back with hindsight, with 2020 vision, and say, I should have done this. I should have gotten when it was 20K, 30K, 50K, 10K, 5K. We'll be seeing. I'm sure now you're looking at it. I'm sure you're thinking already 3K. I wish I had stacked up more on when Bitcoin was at 3K, or even 5K, 6K. And unfortunately, that's the human in us. We're always going to be like, I wish I could have done more. But we are at that point now where we still have the opportunities to take, to take advantage of this. And so this is why, whatever news and developments come out, either way, any opportunities we get to accumulate at lower prices, it's a blessing. But yeah, this is why we're saying don't ever underestimate the bears, because they still, even right now where we are in the market, they could still take this thing to test 6K or even 3K. And some people think that's impossible now, but don't rule it out. That's all I'm saying. Don't rule it out. And if it goes down that low, oh my goodness, this is amazing. The whales would be loving this too. So just appreciate where we are right now, and still early days, even with the regulations that are set to come in, the recommendations that have already been proposed and whatnot. It's still going to have, we're still going to have opportunities. We're still going to have, access to platforms and, companies that will allow us to take advantage of all these moves being made in this space. So this is a global thing, as you guys already know, which means is opening up ourselves to global opportunities. So no, I'm preaching to the choir, but sometimes people forget, we've seen worse, we've been through worse. So this is nothing. And so, when you do pray and you want a correction and you get it, that's not the time to be then saying, okay, well, I wish, I want prices to now be up because I'm afraid that, it could get a lot worse. And like, people are never happy. Have you noticed that? Like that, if it's a bull market, now there's a sense of FOMO. They want to, they wish they got in at a lower price. And then when the lower price comes, guess what? They're scared again that, okay, how low will this go? I'd want to see bullish prices again. I like the market in the green and whatnot. They'll be saying all types of stuff. Can we have 20K already when they're when prices at 10K, and you have another opportunity to stack up. So just stick to your strategy and run with it, please. You can adapt it as and when you want, as it suits your lifestyle and whatnot. But the key here is to stick to your main strategy. Accumulate. If you're accumulating at these pullbacks, you're already seeing gains since the start of this bullish run that we've been seeing since the beginning of the year. If you've been stacking up and investing during the pullback, trading during the pullback, you're still in profit. And so, these are just new opportunities. You have to look at it from the point of view of a whale, as like an institutional investor, like how smart money moves. So whenever we have the markets like this, guess what they're doing? They're accumulating. They're watching these people sell off their Bitcoins and cryptos, and they're on the other side of the order, and they're buying up these at lower prices. When it's pumping up, you start seeing retail come in because of the confidence they get, the bullish sentiment that they see. That's when they accumulate, which is crazy to me. So anyway, I've definitely gone over my time, but I just wanted to point that out. I mean, I don't know if you guys will be watching the live hearings or whether you're going to be watching the recording, but yeah, I would definitely ask you to watch the hearings on Libra and form your own conclusions on that. But the fact that the Democrats of all people, I mean, even the act itself, keep big tech out of Finance Act, like that sounds vindictive to me. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't feel good to me, because if you replace big tech, if you put crypto in there, or if you put some other, you know, other, I don't know, it seems very anti-technology or anti big company. I just it doesn't sit well with me. So you know, having these lawmakers be against innovation, I no, it just doesn't sit well with me, guys. So you know, it'd be interesting watching. I definitely will be paying attention to that. And you know, just to prevent these companies acting as financial institutions and, you know, telling them, you know, what digital currencies they can issue, and, you know, what that entail, like what rules that it has to have, and stuff is very restrictive, and it just, no, it doesn't it doesn't ring well at all. And I'm sure you guys have your opinions on this as well. But and here's the definition, though, that apparently that was written, which it just says it all, basically, and that's why they're scared. So they said, a large platform utility may not establish, maintain, or operate a digital asset that is intended to be widely used as a medium of exchange, unit of account, store of value, or any other similar function as defined by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. So that, to me, that is not good at all. Federal Reserve System, no. We want nothing to do with the feds. We want nothing to do with that. So yeah, that is, it doesn't spell, you know, it's not good news, guys. Stay away. Do what you want, but just no, I don't. No, I'm really disappointed with the Democrats for doing that. So anyway, with that being said, I hope you have a fantastic week. Hopefully we'll get some good news, and you know, some bullish news for those that are keen to have more opportunities. Let me see what, okay. So yeah, that's it for now, and I shall see. I was just checking, let me see on my phone as well. Let's see what's happened while I've been talking on the market. Okay, I see it. I see it's holding its position, still above $10,000. Bitcoin, in fact, it's 10,568 according to this. So yeah, so by this time on Friday, hopefully, I'm either be speaking to you regarding a Bitcoin that's priced below 10,000, or I'll be talking about the recovery of Bitcoin and the you know, sentiment. You know, the fear and greed index changed back to being greed again. So we'll see what happens. But I personally hope that this is the start. If you look at the weekly time frame, where it's showing up reversal pins, reversal candles, and so if this week closes bearish, that looks to be the start of you know, a continuation, you know, to the downside. Hopefully that will give us more opportunities to see price going down to 8,800, for example, 7,600, or even 6,700, guys, or even 6,000. You know, if that gets retested again, that is a key area, guys. As you know, in 2018, you know, it acted as support, it broke down, then acted as resistance, price broke out, and now it's acting as support, and it gets retested again. Oh boy, it's gonna be crazy. I think we may end up seeing 3K being tested again very quickly after that, because if that happens for the second time, and these whales want to prolong the market, that's going to be, a crazy time to have, an opportunity to accumulate. And then I do see at some point the price reversing and coming back to, the bullish levels that we've seen it hit, and continue to then create new yearly high. But yeah, we'll see how that goes, and I hope that we'll have more opportunities to accumulate. That's really the main goal. I hope we still have opportunities to get in below 10,000. That's going to be the major area, the major thing that the bulls will not let that go without a fight. I'm telling you right now, if we see 9K, 8K, 7K, that is going to indicate a weakness in regards to the bull's momentum. That it's not as all of these fluctuations and manipulations we've been seeing has been, partly to do with the fact that it would come out of a prolonged bearish cycle from a bear market going, this, levels that it broke very quickly. But it does tell me then that, some of those moves were false. This may have been a bit like acting like a bull trap in a way. And so we will get to see it go retest lows that will put it near to where it perhaps should have been if the whales didn't manipulate the price so much. So yeah, we're going to see how that works out. But anyway, if it goes lower, it's an opportunity to accumulate. If it gets higher, and you've already been accumulating, congratulations, you'll be happy, with the gains that you're making. So either way, guys, anyway, it's a win-win situation. We're in this space and we continue to, accumulate and get better. So with that being said, peace out. Have a fantastic week. I've definitely gone over my time, so have a good one, and take care. Cheers.